fear is not your enemy. It is a shadow that follows you, whispering doubts, planting hesitation, making you question if you are truly capable of stepping into the life you were meant to live. But here's the truth. Every single person you admire, every single person who has done something remarkable, has walked side by side with fear and self-doubt. The difference is not that they never felt it, but that they refused to let it chain them down. And today I want to share with you how you too can overcome fear and silence the voice of self-doubt that has been holding you back. The first step begins with how we see fear itself. Too often we treat fear like a stop sign, as if the moment it appears, it's proof that we should turn back. But what if fear is not a stop sign, but a signal that we are standing on the edge of growth? Think about it. When you were a child and you learned to ride a bicycle, fear was there. You were terrified of falling, of scraping your knees. But did that fear mean you weren't supposed to ride? No. It meant you were doing something new, something that stretched you beyond where you had been before. And once you pushed past that moment, freedom came. That's the pattern of life. Fear is not the enemy. It's a compass. The presence of fear often means you are heading in exactly the right direction. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" ask, "What if this is where I grow?" The second step is to reframe the voice of self-doubt. That inner critic is clever, isn't it? It tells you you're not smart enough, not talented enough, not worthy enough. It reminds you of past mistakes and paints them like permanent tattoos on your soul. But here's something we forget. Self-doubt is not truth. It's only a perspective, and it's often wrong. Let me share with you a story. There was a young woman who dreamed of becoming a writer. Every time she picked up her pen, the voice inside her said, "Who would ever read your words? You're not good enough." For years she listened. For years her notebooks stayed closed. Until one day she decided to write anyway, not because the self-doubt was gone, but because she chose not to give it the final vote. That woman went on to publish books that inspired thousands. Do you see it? Self-doubt doesn't disappear before you act. It disappears because you act. Action is the antidote to doubt. Every time you take a step, however small, you prove that the voice inside your head is a liar. The third step is to build unshakable courage through consistency. Courage is not a lightning bolt from the sky, striking us with sudden strength. Courage is built in the daily decisions we make when no one is watching. It is choosing to speak up in a meeting when your voice trembles. It is deciding to apply for the job you think you're underqualified for. It is getting out of bed when anxiety tells you to hide. Courage compounds. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. Imagine if you went to the gym once and expected to have the body of an athlete. Impossible, right? The same is true with courage. It grows in layers, through repetition, through small acts that seem insignificant, but ultimately rewire your belief in yourself. And here's the beauty. When you practice courage consistently, fear loses its grip, and self-doubt becomes a whisper rather than a roar. So how do these three truths come together? Fear as a compass, self-doubt as a liar silenced by action, and courage as a muscle strengthened daily. Together they form a map for transformation, because the life you want, the business you dream of starting, the relationship you long for, the goal you've been too afraid to chase, it all sits on the other side of the fears you've been avoiding, and the only way forward is through. Think about this. What would your life look like if fear did not stop you? What would you do today if you believed, just for one moment, that you were capable enough, strong enough, worthy enough? Would you start writing the book? Would you pick up the phone and make that call? Would you finally step onto the stage you've been afraid to stand on? The answers to those questions reveal the life waiting for you. And here's what I know. You are more powerful than you believe. Fear may sit beside you, but it does not own you. Self-doubt may knock on your door, but you don't have to invite it in for dinner. Courage may seem small now, but with practice it can grow into something unshakable. So I challenge you, no, I dare you to take one bold step today. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, but today. Send the email, share the idea, start the project, because readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. If you wait until fear is gone, you will wait forever. But if you decide to move anyway, you will discover strength you never knew you had. The world is not changed by the people who never feel fear. The world is changed by those who feel fear and move forward anyway. And that, my friends, can be you. The life you dream of is not waiting for a fearless version of yourself. It's waiting for the version of you who dares to act, who dares to believe, who dares to rise. So rise, step forward, conquer fear, silence self-doubt, and live with courage. Because the time is now, and the person the world is waiting for is you. Fear and self-doubt, these two forces are like shadows that follow us everywhere, no matter who we are or what we dream of becoming. And if you think you are the only one who wrestles with them, let me tell you something. Every great leader, every brilliant inventor, every artist, every athlete, every entrepreneur has walked through the same storm. Fear whispers to them the same way it whispers to you. Self-doubt gnaws at their confidence the same way it gnaws at yours. The difference is not that they were fearless, but that they chose to keep walking in spite of it. That choice, that decision to move forward, is what separates those who live fully from those who remain trapped by the very limitations they could have broken. You see, fear has a way of disguising itself as wisdom. It tries to convince you that it is protecting you. It tells you, don't take that risk, don't speak up, don't try, because what if it doesn't work? What if you fail? It wraps itself in logic, in caution, in what looks like safety. But in reality, it is not keeping you safe, it is keeping you small. And here is the paradox. The very things we fear most often hold the keys to our freedom. The opportunities you hesitate to seize because of fear are the very opportunities that could elevate your life to the level you dream of. Think of the countless people who never wrote the book inside them because they feared no one would read it. Think of the songs left unsung because their creators doubted whether their voice was good enough. Think of the inventions never brought to life because someone feared being laughed at. Fear and self-doubt have stolen more dreams than failure ever has. Failure is not the true thief. Fear is. Doubt is. They sneak in quietly, telling you to wait until you're ready, until you're perfect, until the conditions are just right. And while you wait, life moves on. But imagine the opposite. Imagine if every time fear showed up, you chose to see it not as a wall, but as a doorway. Imagine if you recognized that fear doesn't show up when you're doing something meaningless. It only shows up when you're about to do something significant. Isn't that proof that you're on the right path? Fear is like a signpost, pointing you toward growth. If it scares you, chances are it matters. Let me share a story. There was once a young man who had a deep desire to speak on stage. He had ideas that burned in his chest, messages he believed could inspire others. But every time he thought about standing in front of an audience, his knees shook, his voice cracked, and his mind screamed, "You're not good enough, you'll embarrass yourself." For years he avoided opportunities, making excuses, staying hidden. Then one day he asked himself a question that changed everything. What if the fear I feel is not here to stop me, but to prepare me? With that shift, he decided to speak. The first time was messy, his hands trembled, his words stumbled. But afterward, someone in the crowd walked up to him with tears in their eyes and said, "What you said gave me the courage I needed." At that moment, he realized fear had lied. His self-doubt had lied. And if he had continued listening to those voices, he would have missed the chance to change someone else's life. And that is the truth for you as well. Your fear and your doubt are not there to define your limits. They are there to test your commitment. They are there to ask, how badly do you want this? Will you let me stop you, or will you rise anyway? Now let's talk about that second truth. That self-doubt is a liar. Doubt is like a distorted mirror. It never shows you the whole picture. It highlights your flaws, magnifies your mistakes, and blinds you to your strengths. It convinces you that your worst moments are your identity, when in fact they were only lessons. Think of a time when you doubted yourself, truly believed you couldn't do something, and yet you did it. Didn't you prove yourself wrong? How many times must you prove self-doubt wrong before you stop giving it power? We must learn to act even while doubt shouts in our ears. Action, not waiting, is what silences doubt. Too many people sit on the sidelines of life, waiting for confidence to magically appear, waiting for the day they no longer feel afraid, waiting until they feel ready. But here's the secret. Confidence does not come before action. Confidence comes because of action. You become confident not by thinking about doing something, but by doing it, again and again, even when your knees are shaking. Think of an athlete who trains for years. Do you think they felt confident the first time they picked up the ball, swung the racket, or ran the race? No, they built confidence by showing up, by practicing, by failing, by learning, by trying again. Confidence is earned, and the only way to earn it is to act in the presence of self-doubt, not in its absence. And then there is the third truth. Courage is built through consistency. Courage is not a single moment of bravery. It is not just climbing a mountain or leaping out of a plane. It is the daily choice to do the things that scare you just enough to stretch you. It is the decision to show up authentically, even when you're not sure how people will receive you. It is raising your hand in the room, applying for the position, asking the question, starting the conversation. These may seem small, but they are acts of courage, and when repeated, they grow into a foundation of unshakable strength. Think of it this way. If fear is a fire, then courage is the water. Every time you take a courageous step, you pour a little water onto the fire. At first the fire roars back, but if you keep pouring, eventually it quiets. The more you practice courage, the more natural it becomes. Soon, what once terrified you becomes ordinary, and then you find yourself reaching for bigger challenges, stepping into larger arenas, living a life that fear no longer controls. So how do you build that consistency? By starting small, by choosing one thing each day that nudges you out of your comfort zone. It might be speaking up in a room, it might be sharing your ideas, it might be reaching out to someone you admire. These small daily acts may not look like much, but they compound. Over time, they shape your identity, and your identity is powerful, because once you see yourself as a courageous person, fear loses its leverage. But let us not romanticize this journey. There will be days when fear feels overwhelming, when self-doubt screams louder than your faith. There will be days when you feel like giving up. On those days, remember this. Progress is not about never stumbling. Progress is about getting back up. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is deciding that something else is more important than your fear. And isn't that what life is truly about? To find the things that matter more than the fear. To discover the purpose, the dream, the vision that makes the trembling in your heart worth it. Fear will always be there, but if your why is stronger, your how will follow. So let me ask you now, what are you allowing fear and self-doubt to steal from you? What dream have you put on hold because you're waiting to feel ready? What opportunity are you walking past because your inner critic tells you that you're not enough? I want you to picture that dream right now, hold it in your mind, see it clearly, and now ask yourself, is fear really worth the price of losing that dream? Because here's the reality. Fear does not go away on its own. You cannot wait it out. You cannot outthink it. The only way past it is through it. The only way to shrink it is to act in spite of it. And once you do, you'll discover something incredible. The monster you thought was blocking your way was never as big as it seemed. It was mostly smoke, mostly illusion, and behind it lies freedom, growth, and the life you've been waiting to claim. So my challenge to you is this. Do one thing today that fear has been telling you not to do. Just one. Make the call, share the idea, take the step, write the first page, say yes to the opportunity. It doesn't matter if it's small. What matters is that you prove to yourself that fear and self-doubt do not control you. And when you do that once, you'll realize you can do it again and again and again, until one day you look back and see that the person who was once paralyzed by fear has become someone who moves boldly, who lives fully, who inspires others not because they were fearless, but because they chose to rise anyway. You are capable of more than you can imagine. Your fear is lying to you. Your doubt is deceiving you. But your courage, that quiet, persistent courage, is waiting to be unleashed. And once you unleash it, there is no limit to what you can do. So rise, step forward, and let the world see the unstoppable force you were always meant to be. Fear and self-doubt often dress themselves in the cloak of reason, making you believe they are protecting you, when in reality they are the invisible chains that bind you to mediocrity. Think about it. How many times have you hesitated at the edge of an opportunity, heart pounding, only to retreat and convince yourself that it just wasn't the right time? But deep down you knew the truth. You weren't waiting for the right time. You were waiting for fear to vanish. And fear never vanishes. It only shifts. It only grows when you feed it with inaction. Fear thrives in silence and stillness. It gains strength every time you choose not to move. Doubt multiplies when you rehearse your insecurities over and over in your mind. But here is the miracle. Fear starves when you take action, even imperfect action. Doubt dissolves when you step forward, trembling but determined. And courage grows when you prove to yourself, through evidence, that you can do the thing you once believed impossible. Consider the eagle, perched high on the cliff. Do you think it feels no fear the first time it spreads its wings to leap into the abyss? Of course it does. The unknown is terrifying. But the eagle does not learn to fly by clinging to the rock. It learns to fly by jumping, by trusting that the wings it was given will carry it. You too were given wings, talents, strengths, gifts, potential. But those wings are useless if you never dare to leap. Fear is the cliff edge, but courage is the leap that teaches you to soar. And yet so many of us live our lives on the edge of the cliff, wings tucked, eyes fixed on the ground, whispering to ourselves, one day when I feel ready, I'll fly. But years pass, opportunities pass, life passes, and still we cling to the edge, waiting for fear to release us. It never will. You must release yourself. I remember hearing about a man who dreamed of starting his own business. For 20 years he stayed at the same job, convincing himself that the steady paycheck was safety, but deep inside his heart ached with unfulfilled potential. Every day he told himself, next year I'll start, next year I'll be ready. But the years rolled by, one after another, and he never did. Do you know why? Because readiness never arrives. Readiness is a myth we tell ourselves to avoid the discomfort of action. That man lived with regret, not because he failed, but because he never tried. Failure can be forgiven. Regret cannot. So let me ask you this. What regret are you on the path to creating for yourself? When you are 80 years old, looking back on your life, will you be proud that you avoided fear, or will you ache because you avoided your dreams? Will you be grateful that you played it safe, or will you mourn the life you could have lived? Fear and self-doubt may feel strong in the moment, but in the long run, regret is far heavier. Now let us revisit self-doubt. That voice in your head is persistent, isn't it? It speaks with authority, as though it knows the truth. It says, you can't, you're not enough, who do you think you are? But ask yourself this, when did self-doubt earn the right to be your advisor? When did it prove itself trustworthy? It hasn't. In fact, every time you've dared to act, haven't you shown that the voice of doubt was wrong? Haven't you proven that you were stronger than you believed? If doubt were a friend, would you keep it around? If a friend told you every day that you were worthless, that you couldn't succeed, that you weren't worthy, would you still listen? Of course not. Then why do you allow self-doubt to hold the microphone in your mind? The truth is, self-doubt is not your voice. It is the echo of fear, of past experiences, of conditioning. Somewhere along the line, you absorbed the belief that you weren't enough, But beliefs are not facts, they are stories, and you have the power to rewrite them. Imagine if Thomas Edison had listened to self-doubt after his 100th failed attempt at creating the light bulb. Imagine if Oprah Winfrey had let doubt stop her after being told she wasn't fit for television. Imagine if Nelson Mandela had let self-doubt silence him after decades in prison. The world would be darker, emptier, less hopeful. Their courage didn't erase doubt, it conquered it. And so can you. But how do we do this consistently? How do we build courage until it becomes our natural response to fear? The answer lies in small daily decisions. Courage is not built in a single leap. It is built brick by brick, like a fortress. Each time you face a fear, no matter how small, you lay another brick. Speak up in the meeting when your voice trembles. That's a brick. Say yes to an opportunity you feel unqualified for. That's a brick. Share your story with someone when you'd rather stay silent. That's a brick. Over time, those bricks stack higher until you are standing on a fortress of your own courage, looking down at the fear that once towered over you. I recall a woman who wanted to run a marathon, but she was terrified of failing, of finishing last, of looking foolish. For months, she wrestled with doubt. But one day she decided to run just 1 mile. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't fast, but it was action. That mile became 2, then 5, then 10. Each step silenced her doubt a little more. On race day, she crossed the finish line with tears streaming down her face, not because she was the fastest, but because she had proven her fear wrong. That is the power of consistent courage. And I want you to hear this clearly. Courage is contagious. When you dare to act, others around you see it. They see you rise, they see you move, and it gives them permission to rise too. Your courage becomes a spark that ignites courage in others. So overcoming fear and self-doubt is not just about you. It is about every life you will touch when you dare to live fully. Think of the people watching you, your family, your friends, your colleagues, even strangers. What message do you send them when you choose fear over action? And what message do you send them when you choose courage? Every act of bravery you take tells someone else, you can do it too. So let me return to where we began. Fear is not your enemy, it is your compass. It shows you where growth lies. Self-doubt is not your truth, it is a liar that loses power when you act. And courage is not a gift, it is a muscle you build through consistent choices. These 3 truths can transform your life if you choose to live them. But choosing is the key word. You must choose. Choose to leap even when your legs shake. Choose to act even when doubt screams. Choose to build courage, 1 brick at a time, until nothing can shake the fortress you've created. So here is my challenge to you today. Identify 1 thing that fear and self-doubt have kept you from doing. Just 1. Maybe it's applying for that position. Maybe it's speaking your truth to someone. Maybe it's starting that dream you've tucked away. Whatever it is, write it down. Commit to it and take 1 step toward it before the day ends. Not tomorrow, not next week, today, because action is the only cure. And when you do, when you take that step, you will feel it, the shift, the spark, the realization that fear does not own you, that self-doubt does not define you, that courage, your courage, has always been waiting inside you, ready to be unleashed. The world needs that version of you, the bold one, the brave one, the one who chooses to rise. Do not keep us waiting any longer. Step forward, live fully, overcome fear, silence doubt, and let your courage become the story that inspires others to do the same. Fear. It's a 4-letter word that carries the weight of an entire lifetime when left unchecked. It creeps into your mind in the middle of the night, when the world is quiet and you are alone with your thoughts. It tightens your chest before a big decision, whispers in your ear before you speak, and paints vivid pictures of everything that could possibly go wrong. And self-doubt, its partner in crime, works even harder. It reminds you of your past mistakes, magnifies your flaws, and convinces you that you are not ready, not worthy, not enough. Together they build invisible walls around your life. And here's the tragedy. So many people never realize those walls aren't made of steel. They're made of paper. And paper walls can be torn down with a single act of courage. The first act of courage is always the hardest, because it means going against the grain of everything you've been conditioned to believe. Society teaches us to avoid risk, to play it safe, to follow the script. Stay in line, don't stand out, don't make waves. But greatness has never been born in comfort zones. The people we admire most, the inventors, the leaders, the creators, were not the ones who clung to safety. They were the ones who stepped into the unknown, who faced their fear, who refused to be silenced by doubt. They were ordinary people who made extraordinary choices, and you can too. Let me tell you about a boy who grew up with a severe speech impediment. Every time he opened his mouth in school, other children laughed. Teachers grew impatient. His self-doubt grew louder with every stumble, every humiliation. But deep inside, he dreamed of speaking clearly, of one day commanding an audience. Years later, he dedicated himself to relentless practice. Day after day, he spoke to the mirror, read out loud, forced himself to confront his greatest fear. And eventually, he became a powerful orator who inspired millions. That boy was Winston Churchill. Imagine if he had surrendered to fear. Imagine if he had said, "My doubt is right, I'll never be enough." The course of history might have been entirely different. This is the power of refusing to bow down to fear and doubt. Your breakthrough may not change the course of nations, but it can change the course of your life and the lives of everyone you touch. Fear tells you that stepping forward will break you, but stepping forward is what will make you. And here is something we often forget. Fear is a universal language. Every human being on this earth feels it. The billionaire standing before investors feels it. The artist about to unveil their work feels it. The student sitting for an exam feels it. The parent sending their child into the world feels it. The difference lies not in whether fear exists, but in how we respond to it. Do we let it paralyze us, or do we allow it to sharpen us? Fear can be a prison, or it can be fuel. The choice is yours. Now think about self-doubt. What is doubt really? It is a story you repeat to yourself until you believe it's fact. I can't do this. I'm not good enough. Others are better than me. If I try, I'll fail. You repeat it so often that it becomes your reality. But here's the question. Who wrote that story? Was it you, or was it the people who once underestimated you? The teacher who told you you weren't smart enough? The employer who rejected you? The friend who laughed at your dreams? Somewhere along the way, you borrowed their voices and made them your own. But those voices are not truth. They are opinions, and opinions are not destiny. If you can create a story of doubt, you can create a story of belief. Imagine replacing the script in your head. Instead of "I can't," what if you said, "I can learn"? Instead of "I'm not ready," what if you said, "I'm becoming ready"? Instead of "I'm not enough," what if you declared, "I am more than capable"? The words you speak to yourself are the seeds of your future. Speak doubt, and you will harvest hesitation. Speak belief, and you will harvest courage. And courage, let me remind you, is not about grand gestures. Courage is often quiet. Courage is the small decisions repeated daily, the refusal to let fear dictate your actions, the willingness to try again when you fall. Courage is saying yes to life when it would be easier to say no. Picture a woman standing at the base of a mountain. The peak looks impossibly far. Her doubt tells her she will never make it. Fear tells her she will fall. But she takes one step, just one. The peak doesn't get closer immediately, but she is no longer at the base, she is on the path. Each step builds on the last, each breath fuels the next, until eventually the summit is within reach. That is how courage works. You don't conquer fear in a single leap. You conquer it one step at a time, and those steps, however small, will take you farther than standing still ever will. Now I want you to think of your own mountain. What is the thing that looms so large in your mind that it feels impossible? Is it starting a business, pursuing a passion, healing from a past wound, speaking your truth? That mountain is not there to block you. It is there to build you. It is there to test the strength you didn't know you had, and the only way to climb it is to start walking. But let's be honest, you will stumble, you will fall, you will face setbacks, and this is where many give up, convincing themselves that failure means they were never meant to succeed. But failure is not the opposite of success, it is the training ground of success. Every stumble is a lesson, every fall a foundation. When a baby takes their first steps, do we scold them for falling? No, we cheer, because falling means they are learning. So why do we treat ourselves differently as adults? Why do we expect perfection before progress? If falling is part of learning for a child, then failing must be part of learning for us. And when you fail, and you will, fear will come rushing back, doubt will shout louder. But that is the moment you must remind yourself, this is proof that I'm in the arena, this is proof that I am trying, while others are standing still, and that is already victory. Let me share with you a powerful truth. The voice of fear is loudest right before the breakthrough, just before you step onto the stage, just before you make the call, just before you take the leap. That is when fear screams the loudest. Why? Because it knows it's about to lose its power. It is like the darkness just before dawn, thickest before the light breaks. If you can endure that moment, if you can push through that final barrier, you will find that the fear was never as big as it seemed. And this is why consistency matters. Courage is not built in occasional acts. It is built in daily habits. If you face one fear each day, no matter how small, you are training yourself. Speak when you want to stay silent. That's training. Try when you want to quit. That's training. Show up when you feel unworthy. That's training. And training builds strength. Over time, you will look back and realize that the things that once terrified you are now effortless. And here's the beautiful thing. Courage compounds. One act of bravery today makes tomorrow's act easier. One step today makes the next step lighter. And before you know it, you are running where you once could barely crawl. So I ask you again, what are you waiting for? What dream are you postponing until you feel ready? What opportunity are you allowing fear to steal? What life are you denying yourself because of self-doubt? The world is not waiting for the perfect version of you. The world is waiting for the brave version of you. Do you want to know the greatest tragedy? It's not death. The greatest tragedy is to live your entire life chained by fear, silenced by doubt, never discovering the power, the gifts, the potential that were always inside you. Do not let that be your story. Instead, let your story be this. I felt fear, and I walked anyway. I heard doubt, and I acted anyway. I stumbled, but I rose again. I built my courage one step at a time until nothing could stop me. Let that be your legacy. Because one day someone will look at your life and say, because they dared, I found the courage to dare too. Your courage will ripple outward in ways you cannot imagine. That is the power of living beyond fear. That is the gift of silencing doubt. That is the life you were created to live. So rise, today, not tomorrow. Step forward, even if your knees shake. Speak, even if your voice trembles. Act, even if your hands are unsteady. Because fear is not the master, you are. Doubt is not the truth, you are. And courage is not a distant dream. It is already within you, waiting for you to unleash it. The question is not whether you feel fear. The question is whether you will let fear feel you, whether you will let it taste your determination, your grit, your relentless decision to live fully. And when fear feels that, it will shrink. When doubt feels that, it will vanish. And when courage feels that, it will roar. So go, rise, live the life you've been postponing. Tear down the paper walls. The world is waiting for the bold, fearless, courageous version of you, and that version is ready right now. Fear is powerful, yes, but it is not permanent. It is not indestructible. It only survives when you feed it with your hesitation, your silence, and your retreat. The moment you stand up to it, the moment you walk into it, something extraordinary happens. It begins to lose its grip. And the strange thing is, the very thing you feared most often becomes the very thing that strengthens you the most. You begin to realize that fear is like a mirage in the desert. Up close, it is nothing but air and heat, an illusion created by your mind. Self-doubt is no different. Self-doubt is the echo of every failure you've ever had, every criticism you've ever received, every comparison you've ever made. It thrives on memory, not on possibility. It keeps showing you the past as proof of your future, when in reality your past is just preparation. Think of a seed. Before it becomes a tree, it must crack open in the darkness of the soil. To an untrained eye, that crack looks like destruction, but in truth it is growth. The same is true for you. The moments when life cracks you open, the moments when doubt convinces you that you are breaking, those are often the moments when you are actually growing into something greater. I want you to pause and reflect. How many times have you looked back on a challenge you once feared and thought to yourself, why was I so afraid? Maybe it was speaking in front of a class, or going to a job interview, or taking that first step into a relationship. At the time, the fear felt enormous. But once you crossed it, it shrank. That's what fear always does. It looks gigantic from the outside, but it crumbles once you face it. Imagine if you could apply that realization to the fears you are holding right now. Imagine if you could remind yourself in this moment, one day I will look back and wonder why I gave so much power to something so small. Fear is a master of exaggeration. It takes a possibility and paints it as certainty. You think, what if I fail? And fear whispers, you will fail. You think, what if they reject me? And fear insists, they will reject you. You think, what if I'm not good enough? And fear declares, you'll never be enough. But fear is a liar. It cannot predict your future. It cannot see your strength. It only magnifies your worst-case scenarios and convinces you that they are the only scenarios. And if you let it, fear will trick you into living half a life. But courage exposes the lie. Every time you act in spite of fear, you rewrite the story. Every time you step into the unknown, you prove to yourself that fear is not the end. It is the beginning. Fear marks the doorway to freedom. Think of the butterfly. Before it spreads its wings, it struggles in the cocoon. The cocoon is tight, suffocating, almost unbearable. But that struggle is necessary. Without pushing against the walls, the butterfly's wings will never develop the strength to fly. If you were to cut open the cocoon and free it early, it would never soar. It is the resistance that gives it strength. And the same is true for you. Your fear, your doubt, your struggles, they are the cocoon. They are not there to destroy you. They are there to strengthen you. They are the very resistance you need to develop the wings of courage. Now let us talk about courage in action. Courage is not just a concept. It is a practice. It is not something you wait for. It is something you build. Imagine someone learning to play the piano. The first notes are awkward, the rhythm off, the sound clumsy. But with practice, with persistence, the music becomes beautiful. Courage works the same way. The first attempts are messy. Your voice shakes, your hands sweat, your heart races. But with each attempt, you get stronger. With each repetition, your courage becomes music. And courage, once built, does not only serve you, it serves others. Have you ever seen someone stand up and speak with vulnerability and felt inspired? Have you ever watched someone take a risk and thought, if they can do it, maybe I can too? That is the power of courage. It multiplies. Your single act of bravery might be the seed that grows courage in someone else's heart. By conquering your own fear, you become a beacon for others who are lost in theirs. But here is the challenge. Fear and doubt never disappear entirely. They evolve. The moment you conquer one level, a new level emerges with new fears. The fear of failure might become the fear of success. The fear of starting might become the fear of sustaining. The fear of rejection might become the fear of responsibility. But that is not a curse, it is proof that you are growing. If you are facing new fears, it means you are reaching new heights, and each new height requires new courage. So how do we keep moving when the fear feels overwhelming? We anchor ourselves in our why. Fear shouts, "What if you fail?" But purpose whispers, "What if you succeed and change your life?" Doubt cries, "You're not enough," but purpose reminds you, you are needed. When the weight of fear is heavy, only the fire of purpose can lift you. That is why you must know your why. Why do you want this dream? Why do you need to take this step? Why does this matter to you? When your why is strong enough, your how will follow. Let me share another story. A young man once wanted to run for public office, but he was terrified. He had no money, no famous name, no powerful connections. His opponents mocked him, his own friends doubted him, but his why was strong. He believed his community deserved a voice, and that belief gave him courage. He faced rejection after rejection, speech after speech where no one listened. But he persisted. Eventually that young man became President Abraham Lincoln, one of the most admired leaders in history. Imagine if he had allowed fear and doubt to silence him. The world would be poorer for it. The lesson is clear. Courage is not about eliminating fear. It is about choosing something greater than fear. And that choice is always in your hands. So what choice will you make today? Will you let fear dictate your actions? Or will you take action in spite of fear? Will you let doubt write your story? Or will you take the pen back into your own hands? I want you to picture yourself 5 years from now. If you continue letting fear and self-doubt control you, where will you be? Still stuck in the same place, still dreaming instead of doing, still waiting for readiness that will never come. Now picture yourself 5 years from now, if you start facing your fears today, if you start silencing doubt with action. Imagine the projects you will have completed, the doors you will have opened, the people you will have inspired. That future is not fantasy, it is waiting for you, but it depends on the choice you make today. Do not wait for fear to disappear. Do not wait for doubt to quiet down. They will not, but you do not need them to. You only need to take the step anyway. Fear will shrink as you grow, doubt will weaken as you act, and courage will rise as your constant companion. So I say to you now, rise, step forward, tear down the illusions, stop waiting for tomorrow, because tomorrow will bring new excuses. Start today, start now. Fear and doubt have had their say long enough. It is time for you to speak louder. It is time for you to live bolder. It is time for you to claim the life that is waiting beyond the walls of fear. And when you do, when you rise, when you step forward, you will discover a truth far greater than any fear. You were always enough. You were always capable. You were always stronger than you believed. Fear just kept you from seeing it. Doubt just kept you from claiming it. But today you can choose differently. Today you can begin the life you were meant to live. Fear, when it grips the heart, has a way of convincing us that it is bigger than we are. It paints itself in the colors of impossibility, it whispers lies of inadequacy, and it convinces us that the risk of stepping forward is far greater than the pain of standing still. But let me remind you of something. Standing still is not safety, it is slow suffocation. Standing still does not protect you, it imprisons you. And if you allow fear and self-doubt to keep you in that prison, then years from now you will look back with regret, wondering what could have been if only you had chosen courage over hesitation. Think of the countless inventions, discoveries, and breakthroughs in history. Behind every single one of them was a human being who was afraid. Do you believe the Wright brothers felt no fear when they built their first flying machine? They were laughed at, ridiculed, told it was impossible. They doubted themselves, yes, but they kept building, and when their creation left the ground, fear had no choice but to bow to courage. Do you think Rosa Parks felt no fear when she refused to give up her seat? Of course she did. But courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act despite fear, and that decision reshaped history. Now let us be honest. Fear and self-doubt do not arrive in our lives with grand announcements. They come quietly, subtly, in the small moments. They show up when you tell yourself you're not ready to apply for that job. They appear when you hesitate to share your ideas in a meeting. They creep in when you scroll through the lives of others and convince yourself that you could never measure up. These small decisions, these quiet hesitations, add up. They build walls around your potential. And if you are not careful, you will spend your life trapped within walls you built with your own doubts. But here is the truth. Those walls are made of paper, not stone. The only thing keeping them strong is your belief in them. The moment you push, the moment you act, the moment you dare to move forward, the walls tear. And suddenly you see that you were free all along. I remember a young woman who once stood at the edge of a stage, shaking with nerves. She had been invited to speak about her journey of overcoming hardship, but fear paralyzed her. She thought, what if my voice trembles? What if I forget my words? What if they laugh at me? For a moment she almost walked away, but then she thought about the people in that audience who needed to hear her story. She realized her fear was about herself, but her purpose was about others. She stepped onto that stage, voice trembling, hands shaking, but as she spoke, her courage grew. By the end, the room was in tears, and she received a standing ovation. Fear told her she couldn't, but courage proved she could. That's how it works. Courage only grows when exercised. And let us not forget the power of choice. Every day, in every moment, you choose who you will listen to, fear or courage, doubt or determination. The choice may seem small, but its consequences are enormous. When you choose fear, you retreat, and your world grows smaller. When you choose courage, you expand, and your world grows larger. Think of life as a hallway with countless doors. Fear keeps you standing in one place, staring at the nearest door, but never turning the handle. Courage tells you to open it. And behind that door are more hallways, more opportunities, more possibilities than you could imagine. But you will never see them if you do not choose to open the first door. History is filled with people who chose courage over fear. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. Fear could have told him to surrender. Doubt could have convinced him his dream was too costly. But courage sustained him, and when he walked free, he helped transform a nation. Malala Yousafzai faced bullets for daring to believe that education should belong to every girl. Fear could have silenced her forever, but courage gave her voice a global platform. Every act of progress in this world, big or small, was birthed by someone who chose courage in the face of fear. And if they could do it, so can you. Now let us bring it back to the personal, because fear is not only about global struggles, it is about daily battles. The fear of saying I love you first, the fear of admitting I need help, the fear of raising your hand in class or presenting an idea at work. These small fears, when faced, create ripple effects. Each time you confront them, you train yourself for bigger battles. Do not underestimate the power of these daily choices. They are the bricks that build the cathedral of courage. And what about failure? Failure is fear's favorite weapon. It convinces you that failure is fatal, that one mistake defines you forever. But failure is not the opposite of success. It is the ingredient of success. Look at every great athlete, every inventor, every leader. They all failed more times than they succeeded. Michael Jordan missed more shots than he made, but he is remembered for the ones he hit. Edison failed thousands of times before he gave us light. Oprah was told she wasn't fit for television, yet she built an empire. Failure is not the enemy. It is the evidence that you are trying, the teacher that shapes you, the compass that redirects you. So when fear waves failure in your face, answer it with this truth. Failure does not end me, it refines me. Self-doubt says, you're not good enough. Courage answers, I am getting better every day. Fear says, what if you fall? Courage replies, what if I fly? You must decide whose voice you will echo. I want you to imagine yourself standing at the edge of a vast ocean. On the shore, you feel safe, but you are unfulfilled. You look out at the horizon and know that beyond the waves lies the life you desire. Fear tells you the water is too deep, the waves too strong. Doubt tells you that you cannot swim far enough, but the truth is, you are built for these waters. The safety of the shore will never give you the joy of the horizon, and the only way to reach it is to step into the tide, 1 foot at a time, trusting that with each stroke you will find strength you never knew you had. And isn't that the essence of life? That everything worth having lies on the other side of fear, love, opportunity, purpose, fulfillment. They are all waiting beyond that barrier. And once you cross, once you feel the exhilaration of victory, you will wonder why you let fear hold you back for so long. But let me be real with you. The battle against fear and self-doubt is not fought once. It is fought daily. Fear will knock again tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. Self-doubt will rise up in moments of weakness. But courage is a muscle, and the more you use it, the stronger it becomes. And just like a seasoned warrior recognizes the enemy, you will come to recognize fear quickly. You will learn to say, "Ah, there you are. I see you, but you do not control me." This is why you must build habits of courage. Speak even when your voice shakes. Try even when you might fail. Show up even when you feel unworthy. Each habit is a declaration. Fear, you do not own me. Doubt, you do not define me. Over time, those habits will transform you into a person you never thought you could be. And here is the most important truth of all. Courage is contagious. When you rise, others rise. When you speak, others find their voice. When you act, others are inspired to act. By overcoming your fear, you give permission for others to overcome theirs. And that is how communities change, how cultures shift, how the world transforms, not through the absence of fear, but through the presence of collective courage. So now I turn the question back to you. What fear has been holding you hostage? What doubt has been whispering lies into your ear? And more importantly, what life is waiting for you on the other side? Because it is there, it is real, it is yours for the taking. Do not let fear write your story. Do not let doubt hold the pen. Take it back. Write a story of courage, of boldness, of resilience. Let your life be proof that fear is not the end, but the beginning. And when others look at you, let them see a person who chose to rise, not because they were fearless, but because they refused to be ruled by fear. This is your moment. This is your calling. Step into it with trembling hands, with racing heart, with doubt still whispering in the background, but step into it nonetheless, because the world is waiting, your dream is waiting, your life is waiting, and fear has had its grip on you long enough. There is a truth we must embrace, a truth that often hides behind the shadows of fear and self-doubt. You were never meant to live a small life. You were never designed to shrink into corners, to silence your voice, to bury your dreams beneath layers of insecurity. You were born with potential that surpasses imagination, with a fire inside that longs to blaze brightly. But fear knows this, doubt knows this, and so they conspire to keep you contained. They whisper to you that you are not ready, that you are not worthy, that others are better, smarter, stronger, more deserving. They hope that you will believe them, because if you do, you will never test your wings. But what if today you decide not to believe the lie? What if today you refuse to be a prisoner of thoughts that do not serve you? Fear will always present itself as logic. It will say, "Don't take that chance, you might lose." It will say, "Stay comfortable, at least you know what to expect here." But behind that thin mask of logic is the real truth. Fear is trying to rob you of growth, of expansion, of transformation. Self-doubt will nod in agreement and add, "And besides, who do you think you are to dream so big?" But I ask you this, who are you not to? Who are you not to rise? Who are you not to shine? Who are you not to step into the fullness of what you can be? Think about the times in your life when you felt most alive. Perhaps it was when you tried something new, when you stood on a stage for the first time, when you confessed your feelings to someone, when you walked into a room full of strangers and dared to introduce yourself. Those moments were filled with nerves, with trembling hands and racing hearts, but they were also filled with exhilaration, with growth, with possibility. That is the paradox of fear. On the other side of it lies life at its richest. If you run from fear, you run from life itself. But if you walk through it, you open the door to your greatest experiences. Imagine a child learning to ride a bicycle. In the beginning, they wobble, they fall, they scrape their knees. Tears flow, and fear creeps in, saying, "Maybe this isn't for you. Maybe you should give up." Doubt whispers, "You'll never get it right." But the child gets up again, climbs back onto the seat, pushes forward, and after enough attempts, balance comes. Suddenly the wind rushes against their face, and the joy of movement outweighs the memory of falling. That lesson is not only for children, it is for you. Every skill, every achievement, every dream worth pursuing will require the courage to wobble, the resilience to fall, and the determination to rise again. Fear and doubt are simply the training grounds for mastery. Too often we wait for confidence before taking action. We think, once I feel ready, then I'll start. But the secret is this: action creates confidence, not the other way around. Confidence is not a prerequisite, it is the reward of doing. If you sit back and wait for fear to vanish, you will wait forever. Fear does not disappear before you act. It disappears because you act. Think of the actor before stepping onto the stage, the athlete before stepping onto the field, the leader before stepping into the meeting room. The nerves never fully vanish, but action transforms those nerves into energy, into focus, into power. So do not wait for courage to arrive fully formed. Step forward trembling, and watch courage grow in the process. Every time you confront fear, you rewrite your identity. You prove to yourself that you are stronger than you thought, braver than you believed, more capable than you imagined. These victories compound over time. One day you wake up and realize that the things which once terrified you are now ordinary. Speaking to strangers, once impossible, is now easy. Taking risks, once unthinkable, is now exciting. Fear does not stop you anymore because you have trained your spirit to move through it. And let us not forget that fear thrives in isolation. When you carry it silently, it grows louder. When you share it, when you admit, "Yes, I'm scared. Yes, I doubt myself," suddenly it loses some of its grip. Connection diminishes fear's power. You realize you are not alone, that others have walked this road too, that others have felt the same trembling and still found their way. Fear wants you to think you are the only one, but the truth is, fear is universal, and courage is universal too. If others have walked through it, so can you. I remember hearing the story of a young artist who dreamed of sharing her paintings with the world, but fear kept her canvases hidden in a closet. Self-doubt convinced her that no one would care, that people would laugh, that she wasn't truly talented. Years passed, and the closet filled with paintings that no one ever saw. One day a friend discovered them and said, "These are beautiful. Why are you hiding them?" With trembling hands, the artist agreed to share one piece at a local gallery. To her shock, it was celebrated. One painting led to another, then to exhibitions, then to a career. The talent was always there. The opportunity was always there. But it was locked away by fear and doubt. How many of us are hiding our own paintings, our gifts, our ideas, our dreams, because we are listening to the wrong voices? Let me tell you this: the world is not served by your hiding. Your dream is not just for you, it is for someone else who needs it. That book you hesitate to write may be the book that gives someone else hope. That business you hesitate to start may be the service that changes someone else's life. That idea you hesitate to share may be the spark that ignites innovation in others. Fear convinces you that your dream is selfish, that it is too small, too unimportant. but in reality, your dream is a contribution. By overcoming fear, you do not only free yourself, you free those who will be blessed by your courage. So, what do you do when fear rises again tomorrow, when doubt whispers again in your ear? You answer it with evidence. You remind yourself of the times you were afraid and still acted, the times you doubted yourself and still succeeded, the times you thought you would fall, but you stood tall. You build a library of victories in your memory, and when fear tries to argue, you show it the evidence of your resilience. Let us also remember that fear and doubt are not signs that you are weak. They are signs that you are human. Every great person you admire has felt them too. The difference is that they did not let those feelings decide their destiny. You cannot control when fear shows up, but you can control how you respond, and every response is a declaration of the person you are becoming. Picture yourself 5 years from now. Do you want to look back and say, I let fear hold me back? Or do you want to say, I walked through it, even when it shook me to my core? The choice you make today will create that future. Fear and doubt are temporary. Regret is permanent. Do not let the comfort of today cost you the fulfillment of tomorrow. And so I urge you now, take the step you've been delaying, have the conversation you've been avoiding, share the idea you've been protecting, pursue the dream you've been postponing. You don't have to be fearless, you just have to be willing, willing to try, willing to risk, willing to believe, even when it feels impossible. Because here is the truth. Fear is loud, but it is not stronger than you. Doubt is persistent, but it is not permanent. You are bigger than both. Your courage is stronger, your resilience deeper, your potential greater. And if you choose today, right now, to live not as a prisoner of fear, but as a champion of courage, then nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop you from becoming who you were meant to be. Fear is not the enemy we so often believe it to be. It is not a curse meant to paralyze you forever. Fear is a signal, a sign that you are standing at the edge of growth. It is like the trembling before the leap, the shaking before the song, the racing heart before the declaration. And yet we misunderstand it. We mistake it for a stop sign, when in truth it is an invitation. Every time you feel fear, it is life whispering, here lies the path where you will grow. Here lies the direction where your soul will expand. But because we listen to the whisper of doubt that follows closely behind, we retreat, we turn back, we hide. And by doing so, we rob ourselves of the very transformation we seek. Think of the butterfly. It begins as a caterpillar, and when the time for change arrives, it enters the cocoon. In that dark, confined place, everything inside it is broken down, dissolved, remade. It is uncomfortable, frightening, painful even. If the butterfly could feel fear and give up, it would never emerge. But it does not stop. It endures the process until the day comes when it breaks free and spreads its wings. That is the story of your life. Fear is the cocoon. Doubt is the darkness inside. But if you endure, if you keep pushing through, you will discover wings you never knew you had. So the first truth to remember is that fear is not there to destroy you, but to direct you. And once you see it as a compass rather than a chain, everything changes. Instead of running away from fear, you lean toward it. Instead of asking, what if I fail? You ask, what if this is the very step that unlocks my destiny? That change of perspective turns fear from an obstacle into an ally. Now, let me share with you another truth. Self-doubt thrives on comparison. When you measure yourself against others, you are feeding it, giving it strength. You look at someone else's success and think, they are so far ahead. Who am I to even try? You see someone else's confidence and think, they are so strong, I am too weak. But here's what doubt does not want you to know. Everyone begins somewhere. The confident speaker was once too afraid to raise their hand in class. The successful entrepreneur was once drowning in failed ideas. The brilliant artist was once sketching stick figures. What you see in others today is the result of them fighting through their own fear and doubt yesterday. But let us not be naive. The journey of overcoming fear and doubt is not one of instant transformation. It is not about one grand gesture that solves everything. It is about the daily battle. Every single day you will hear the whispers, "You are not enough. You might fail. Stay small." And every single day you must answer. Courage is not one decision made once. It is a choice made repeatedly. Like muscles that strengthen with repetition, courage grows when you practice it consistently. Think of a singer training their voice. They do not sing perfectly on the first try. They rehearse scales, they practice breathing, they push through cracks and missed notes. Over time, their voice strengthens, smoothens, expands. The same is true with courage. You practice it in small ways, speaking when you'd rather stay silent, trying when you'd rather quit, showing up when you'd rather hide. And slowly, almost without noticing, you grow stronger. What once terrified you becomes manageable, and what once seemed impossible becomes your new normal. One of the most powerful things you can do is to build a record of your own victories. Keep a memory of the times you faced fear and came out stronger. Maybe it was the first time you interviewed for a job. Maybe it was when you walked into a room where you knew no one. Maybe it was when you chose to stand up for yourself or for someone else. Write them down, hold them close. Because when fear returns, and it will, you can point back and say, "I have been afraid before, and I still prevailed. I can do it again." Fear may speak loudly, but it cannot erase evidence. And what about failure? Failure. The word fear uses most often to terrify you. But failure is not the end. It is the middle of the story. It is the teacher that shapes you into someone capable of success. Think of failure as the blacksmith's fire. It burns, it bends, it tests you, but in the end it forges you into something stronger, sharper, more resilient. If you run from failure, you run from the very thing that prepares you for your purpose. Thomas Edison once said he did not fail thousands of times. He discovered thousands of ways that did not work. Each one was a step closer to the light. The Wright brothers crashed many times before they flew. J.K. Rowling was rejected by publisher after publisher before Harry Potter ever made it to the shelves. What if they had listened to fear? What if they had let self-doubt stop them? The world would have been poorer for it. And so I ask you, what if the dream inside you is the very dream the world needs? What if your voice is the missing piece in someone else's puzzle? What if your courage is the spark that ignites another's flame? Fear and doubt try to convince you that you are alone, but the truth is, your courage is not just for you. It is for those who will see you, who will hear you, who will be inspired because you dared. A mother who chases her dream teaches her child that dreams are possible. A leader who admits vulnerability shows the team that honesty is strength. A student who stands up in class gives permission for others to stand too. Your courage is contagious. Every act of bravery creates a ripple that spreads farther than you could ever imagine. So now the question becomes, how will you live? Will you let fear write your story? Will you let self-doubt hold the pen? Or will you take it back? Will you write a story of courage, of persistence, of triumph? This is not about being fearless. No one is fearless. It is about refusing to be ruled by fear. It is about rising with trembling hands, about speaking with a shaking voice, about stepping forward with knocking knees, and doing it anyway. Because one day, years from now, you will look back, and when you do, may you not say, "I let fear stop me." May you say, "I was afraid, but I went on anyway. I doubted myself, but I tried anyway. I stumbled, but I rose again." That is the life worth living. That is the story worth telling. So I ask you now, what dream is waiting behind your fear? What life is waiting beyond your doubt? And more importantly, will you step forward and claim it? Because the world is waiting, your destiny is waiting, and fear has had its grip on you long enough.